Okay. Whoops.
What?
Nothing. I started streaming our image before the logo.
Oh.
Now you can't hear it, but Jimmy Smith is playing right now.
Okay.
So, not sure why. I guess I have to go reconfigure. But we are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Counselor Curtis, and this is the Jimmy Doan Show.
And with Jimmy Doan
That's
here.
right. He is alive and well.
Live and well.
And as you're about to see, moments from now, you should be receiving video. If there's anything wrong with this video, I'm going to upload a better copy right afterwards. But it looks like it's streaming okay for now. So hopefully this will work. And we are live twice a week these days on YouTube at Jimmy Doan on Wednesdays and Sundays at 4 p.m. So join us anytime. Today is Lizzie's birthday, 8/22.
How old is she now? 22?
Yeah, she's like 23, something like that. Okay, and here we are. Woohoo! Whoops, maybe I need to stop this. Okay,
All right, here we are. Good.
I think we are here.
Good to see you, folks. All right, well, big news.
What's happening?
I've got several things, but we're going to have to delve into the Paul Manafort, a longtime political operative who months that Donald Trump's successful presidential campaign was found guilty of 8 financial crimes in the first trial victory of the special counsel investigation, a mistrial on 10 other counts. Mm-hmm. So they could be resurrected, I guess.
Yeah, they could be. It's rare. He's got him on 8 things. But this is very interesting.
What's interesting to me is that they call it a stunning 1-2 punch of bad news for the White House, and I don't see that.
Well, okay, so it's bad. It's not great news for the White House. That Manafort's not really bad news for the White House.
I was going to say, this all happened before. It didn't happen way early on or something?
It did. And
his own private stuff or something?
Right, and this has nothing to do with Russia or collusion or anything like that. This is money laundering, bank fraud, that kinds of stuff. Nothing to do with Trump at all.
Right.
He worked for Trump for, a year or something?
No, 100 days I think it was.
Okay, very short period of time, relatively speaking. But what's interesting about the Manafort situation to me is that, well, there's a couple of things. Number one, they did not put up any defense,
right,
as we talked about last time.
Yeah, right.
This to me is perplexing, and I'm serious. I've been thinking more about it, and I cannot figure out what they were thinking. How could they not put up some kind of defense?
Well, you said they probably did it in the closing statement.
Yes, but you have to present a narrative to the other side, and by not even calling a witness, they're allowing the other guys to control the whole narrative.
Right.
If you're going to paint Gates as the bad guy, and that's what their plan was, they should have like at least a mistress or something, somebody get up there and say something negative about this guy. It's as if Manafort went in there and said to his lawyers, "Hey, don't worry about this. Hey, I got this. Hey, my buddy, he's the president. He's my boy. I mean, what? Like he went in there like Stern from Heavy Metal. I've got an angle." And his lawyer's going, "For the love of God, plead guilty. Maybe they'll let your parents visit the grave." But no, I've got an angle. Because no defense. It seems to me like it's incompetence on his lawyer's part, and I guess it could make sense that he would hire incompetent lawyers if he's incompetent himself or something, but it just seems any defense attorney would have known he was walking into the twirling blades, and when you're doing that, you take a plea. You take a plea if you know you're going to lose, because the sentence would be less. And so the only reason you don't do that is if you want to show, I don't know, the president that you're a fighter or something.
So now who is this attorney anyway? Have we done any research on the guy? Is he incompetent?
Who, Manafort?
No, his attorney.
Oh, I haven't. Well, no, I haven't done any research on his attorneys to see.
I mean, why would he? Oh, in this day and age, you would think that if he's being charged with all this kind of stuff that involves serious jail time, I mean, how old? I don't know how old he is, but if it gets 10 years, it's like almost the rest of his life.
It's everybody's facing life on these situations, but the problem is that it's easy to get tricked if you're not an attorney like Manafort, and it's easy to get tricked into thinking your attorneys are awesome when they suck.
We've had this experience.
Yeah, it happens.
We know about this.
And so that I don't blame him for, but it's just bizarre that he let that whole thing go through this whole time, and just sort of walked it through as a trial. That's weird to me, and so I'm curious. Now, here's the other really weird part to me. Okay, so Cohen, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second part of yesterday's big news, the 1-2 punch, is that Cohen, Trump's former lawyer and fixer, went in there and pled guilty to the same type of things, that is misleading investigators, lying about the Russia thing, and it's saying something about actually it wasn't Russia, it was the payoffs,
right,
to the Stormy Daniels and the other one.
Right.
He went in there and said, I was directed by basically President Trump to do this stuff. Now, this is beyond bizarre to me for a couple of reasons.
All right.
Okay. Cohen got no deal from Manafort, from Mueller,
okay.
from Mueller. Okay, so why do you go in and plead guilty to a case if you're not getting a deal? And the only reason is because you're about to get pounded. Okay, so did he feel like because Manafort lost, like he was just going to throw in his cards at this point? He's not even going to wait until the moment to bargain, which would be his trial date.
Yeah.
That is to say, if you're going to plead guilty, no matter if you're going to do that, you wait until the last day, because that's when you get the best deals, and every defense attorney knows that. So why you would march in there before you had to and give up without a deal is weird. And then here's another thing. Okay, Manafort gets guilty. Obviously Cohen knows that, and yet he goes in to talk to the prosecutors on the same day, thereby tying his name to guilty Manafort's forever.
Yeah.
Forever. His name was mentioned in the same line as Manafort's 1,000 times yesterday. If it was mentioned in the press,
right.
1 billion times
like
worldwide.
One name.
Yeah, I mean, he is now wrapped up with this guy who he knows was going to be convicted guilty.
Yeah.
Nobody would have thought that Manafort would have gotten off with that kind of defense. And Cohen is an attorney, so he would know, or he would at least have some friends who would tell him, look, Manafort's going down. So don't go in there today, for the love of God.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Why would you do that? And then to not go in with a deal is also another peculiar thing. Neither of these guys had deals. And if you think about it, this is weird because, okay, so Manafort now, there's no impetus for him to make a deal or for the prosecution to make a deal at this point because they already convicted him.
Are they convinced that Trump's going to pardon him?
That's the only thing I can think of.
The only thing I can think of.
Is that both of them are thinking.
They are under the impression that Trump's going to.
Manafort was like, I got this. And Cohen was like, you know what, I'm in with that guy.
Yeah.
But then Cohen says, or somebody reports today, that he wouldn't accept a pardon.
What was
How
that
do I? Wait a minute. Now, hold on a second. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
You take the pardon.
Yeah, even if you didn't do it. You
Exactly. Even if you didn't do it.
Even if you're innocent.
You
I'm
take
taking
the pardon.
Yeah.
It's a pardon. It can't be unpardoned.
No.
There is no power to unpardon.
No. That's
So what? That doesn't make any sense. It's almost like, yeah, I think you must be right. I'm sorry I don't have the answer. I'm telling you, hopefully maybe you can see through this. Well, I don't know why these guys did that way. Now Cohen, and Cohen can't have anything too damaging because if he did, he would have gotten a deal too.
Right.
So, I mean, Manafort, it would have been worth giving Cohen a deal because he's the linchpin guy, apparently, in this whole thing.
Yeah.
He's the fixer.
Right.
If anybody knows anything, it's him.
He knows where the bodies are.
He knows where the bodies are buried. He put the skeletons in there before when they're still bodies. So how is that working? It's almost like there's a piece of the puzzle here we're not seeing.
No, I agree with you on that. It does appear. What was interesting was that Scott Adams predicted that some would get off with a hung jury and some would be convicted. He predicted that before the end of the trial. It was kind of interesting because we talked about this last time. They were the press were out interviewing the jurist, and you don't do that unless blah, blah.
Well, but and here's the way he must have seen it. And the fact is, it was taking a long time for a conviction.
What was it, about 3 days or something?
Well, no, it was like a week, wasn't it? I think it was several days.
Okay, maybe.
And
I thought they quit on they stopped on Friday, maybe. I don't know.
It was last week sometime for sure. That means it was several days on what should have been a super easy conviction. So there was something weird going on there.
Right.
And so
especially when they sat down and they asked.
Right.
What is
about reasonable doubt?
Yeah.
So and that's because there's those vague, bank fraud. These kinds of charges are so vague, and people, have brought up the concept that Mueller has indicted and got convicted on like 40 people at this point. I went through the whole list. There's a great article on Vox, actually, which is a left-leaning thing.
Right-leaning, you mean?
No, it's left.
The article's left.
Yeah.
Fox isn't.
Well, no, not Fox. Vox.
Oh, Vox, right. Yes.
Vox, and so
Not to be confused with Vox Day, who is a guy who...
Oh, yeah, I don't know. This is the news source Vox. Clearly falls on the left-hand side in terms of those media bias charts. And they come out and recognize that none of these convictions have anything to do with anything that Trump did, except for 3.
Let me read this. All this time, this is one of the comments.
Okay.
The thing was, all this time, money, and effort, and fake news to find out this had nothing to do with Trump or Russians, but it was just about Manafort cheating on his taxes. It is starting to sound like the other guy may be facing charges of a personal campaign donation he did not disclose. I wonder how everyone in D.C. would fare under such a magnifying glass.
Right.
I have a feeling that Mueller will be called to the Hill to answer some very tough questions. What a waste of taxpayer money.
Well, and look, it's not over yet.
No, I know.
And the truth is that this new development with Cohen could very well have some teeth to it, because you can make the case that these contributions are contributions in kind. And it's a super tenuous case, but you can make it, and you've got a witness. Now, here's the thing. Here's the problem that the Democrats are going to have, I think, and this is interesting again. I think this whole thing is going to backfire, because the problem that they have is there's no precedent in American history for indicting a sitting president.
Okay.
Hasn't been done.
Well, they've been impeached, but
right. That's right.
Right.
So, in other words, what you do, the process is you impeach him first.
Right.
And then you indict him.
Right.
Okay? Problem is, in order for them to get enough votes to impeach, they're going to need an indictment. Because these allegations are just in and of themselves too weak. I mean, look, think about let's assume for a minute. Now, there are 3 of those people actually do have something to do with Trump and law violations.
Okay.
2 of the people admitted to lying to the FBI about their relationships and meetings with Russia. Okay. Now, one of those guys met with Russia after the election, so that really can't be the collusion. But the other one met with him beforehand. And so let's just assume that is collusion. Let's assume that Trump, the first allegation is that Trump knew about a meeting between his campaign and Russia, at which dirt was supposed to be disclosed, but according to the meeting participants was not disclosed. And Trump did not, and he quote unquote lied about knowing about that meeting, but not under oath.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the allegation is that he knew about a meeting at which nothing happened.
Right.
But yet, so maybe they want to try to get him on attempting to collude that failed. It's like, it's so tenuous, it's so bad. So that whole thing.
He tried to attempt something.
That's right. He attempted and he failed. But yeah, exactly. It's so weak. So the other one though, the Cohen one. Okay, let's assume you turn the microscope on him and you say, look, this is campaign contribution in kind, whatever, $150,000 or $300,000 if you count the other hooker. $300,000 out of $1 billion in campaigns. Okay,
Right.
and this is. The morality of that, the immorality of the influence of $300,000 in payments to hookers for services rendered a decade ago, that you have to imagine has something to do with the campaign.
Right.
You can do that, but you do have to.
Yeah, because of the time frame.
Right, because of the time
I
frame.
mean, the 150 or the money wasn't paid in 2005.
Exactly. So ostensibly, and you can draw that conclusion. So,
Right.
so there's like enough. If you are a normal person, you could get charged with that. But are they going to charge Are they going to try to charge the president with that before he gets impeached, or is some Democrat going to stand up there and say he violated campaign finance rules by allowing a contribution in kind and not reporting it? He must be impeached. The gravity of that is just missing. I mean, look, Obama was fined like $350,000 or $375,000 for campaign violations at one point. If you turn the microscope on any person, I guarantee you, anybody in the United States could be convicted of tax fraud.
Sure.
I bet you, I guarantee you, anybody could be convicted of tax fraud, which is probably why he didn't release his tax statements. Except maybe Warren Buffett. I don't know. Even him. Doesn't matter. You've signed so many documents that you swore everything on there was the truth.
Yeah.
All you have to have is one mistake by your subordinate, and you are on the hook for that. It's perjury, whatever it is, tax fraud. So that they could theoretically get him for this, I could see, but I can't see anybody making the case for impeachment based on that, and I can't see them charging him without
Well, there are the people that are so hated, so the total haters.
You can see that. Look, the haters had a red panty night last night,
Yeah.
man. I mean, they went all out. Champagne, the Dom was flowing. Everybody was. But here's the thing, man. If they don't get anything out of this, guess what? They've just pissed off all the Republicans.
Yeah.
And those guys will go to the polls now in the midterms.
Yeah. This. In other words, there's a time when you can blow your wad a little early.
Oh man.
And see, this is like August.
Right.
And it's got a couple of months before the midterms. So
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because a lot of the Dems are saying the blue tide is coming, but and on this backfire, I can tell you right now, you can see that it could be the red tide. I mean,
it easily could be. I have no idea. I don't keep up with the minor races or any of the any who's ahead by what points or whatever. It doesn't. To me, it all comes down to those last couple of weeks anyway.
Right.
And
that's when they all plow the big money in there.
Yeah, and just the surprises, and there's just so many different. And then I don't trust any of the polls anymore except for Gallup. And, so we'll see what happens. But I think they may have caused a big backlash, because when you look at the articles and you read the comments to the articles, like that Vox article, all the comments on the Vox site were super negative against Trump. Lock him up.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, sure, lock him up. Vox, remember?
I know.
Lock him up. Throw away the key. Finally, people going down hard. Blah blah blah. Then you look on the Yahoo comments, which is the referral site. That is there are comments for the sort of referral page, and those comments are all by Yahoo users in a different crowd, and those people were pissed off that they were, from their perspective, this still is a witch hunt, and it still is overblown. You talk about, like I said, those two allegations, those are the worst things they can come up with. I mean, when we look back on past presidents and we can see gun running to Mexico, or faking WMDs, or How about being in the Oval Office, having sex with a White House intern while you're married, and denying it on national TV?
I did not have sex with that woman.
That's right, sexual relations.
Sexual relations with
That's
that
right. That was the slip. That's what allowed him to say he never lied. And
Yeah, it depends the meaning of his.
well, right. Sexual relations, from his perspective.
I remember when we did, just as a side, years ago when I was on the radio, when we were on the radio, we came up with a new Barbie doll.
Radio, what's that?
Yeah, what's that? Right. Now the Jimmy Doan Show was on radio for a while, years ago, but during this, when the blue dress came out, we thought we'd have a new Barbie doll with a blue dress and with stained material that you could put on it. But
Yeah, that could be good. But so everybody's throwing Trump under the bus. And also, here's the other thing. Let's assume that they win, the Democrats. That is to say, let's assume
did they take the House?
Yeah. Well, and also that they get him impeached. Okay. Then what? Then they're stuck with Pence.
Yeah.
Pence. I don't know too much about Pence, but
I don't think anybody does.
from what I've seen, he's like hyper religious.
Yeah,
And
I understand. Yeah, he was the one that said he would never have dinner with anybody other than his wife, unless his wife was there.
oh yeah.
And he the guy that?
There were some weird statements that
Well, there
came
was
out.
something about somebody had dinner with a girl or a woman or something like that, and he said no. He says if I ever did that, I'd have my wife with me at the same time. I would never be alone with a mother woman.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember some weird comments about him, and so I don't know. We'll see. So anyway, that's all I got on those issues.
Okay, well let me just see here if I had something else that, I had a couple things. Let me just, unlawful, that was Elizabeth Warren is in the news again.
Well, yes, she is.
Yeah, Elizabeth Warren, I mean, there's a couple things here that are kind of interesting.
What's interesting is that she's a law professor.
That's what it is. She's a law. She's been. Now you understand that she may be a law professor, but she spent decades in quote public service. She's been a civil servant. I think that's when she was maybe a law professor or something, and then she's been in wherever she's been for a long time.
Okay,
She's
so
not-
what?
Well, what I mean is that she's a law professor. Okay, so now here's what she wants to do. She wants to fix.
Oh, right.
She wants to fix what's wrong with the campaign contributions and all
The
that.
lobbying system.
The lobbyists and the incestuous whatever it is in Washington with a new law.
Right.
And of course, I've always maintained that you have to understand the original campaign finance law is like 40 years old. It's been amended about 40 times. I mean, because they can never get it right. What people don't understand is when you have untold billions of dollars flowing through Washington, there are just too many people that are too smart that are going to want to get their hands on some piece of it. And no matter what you do, if you have a death sentence for people that try and lobby Congress, it doesn't matter. There's still going to be ways, they're going to find a way around it. And this is, so here she wants to have, I was looking at some of this stuff here. Let me go through some of this. She's unveiled a sweeping plan on Tuesday to crack down on the lawful corruption she says has infected Washington policymaking. Now, this was on a speech she did to the National Press Club. She blamed the lack of public trust in government on the undue influence of wealthy special interests and laws too toothless to curb them. What's interesting is that every time you turn around, they try and put supposedly more teeth in the law. This campaign finance has evolved over the years from just don't do it to, you see what the fines are.
Right.
I mean, if you do almost anything, they have these little minefields all over the place.
Right.
That you can be fined, thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, supposedly, for
Yeah, like if one radio station trumpets your situation and then they don't give the equal time or whatever.
Well, they stopped that.
I know they stopped that one.
They stopped that one. That was one that was so bad.
Yeah.
That they said, even we can't stomach that.
Yeah.
But basically, this in-kind business is
Yes.
just, that's so nebulous. I mean, when do you call it in-kind? And I can understand if some printing company who's printing up your signs, donates them. Okay,
Right.
okay, that's in kind.
Right.
But other than that, they have all this stuff. So anyway, the bill. This is the part that I like. The bill would reshape This is her, okay? This is her 6 points, whatever it is. This is Elizabeth Warren, you know, the genius, whatever it is, law, you know, Pocahontas, whatever it is. The bill would reshape the federal government by, among other things, putting a padlock, quote unquote, on the, quote, revolving door, unquote, between government and the private sector, dramatically increasing regulation of lobbyists and in some cases scaling back their activities significantly, tightening ethics standards for lawmakers, federal agencies, and federal judges, and creating a new anti-corruption agency to enforce these regulations. I mean, are you kidding me?
Look, we're going to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse.
Yep, that's right. I mean, this is.
And we're gonna rewrite it.
Her legislation is ambitious and far-reaching, drawing upon her focus as a senator, and before that, as a civil servant and a law professor, on documenting the noxious effects of lobbyists and so forth. So here's some of the things it would do. It would institute a lifetime ban on lobbying for former federal elected or appointed officials. Now you have to understand that one of the things in the Constitution is the right to redress Congress for grievances. Okay, now you have a lifetime ban. You can't do it. You got to be kidding me. Well, law professor, lady, go read the Constitution.
It's amazing. You know, Elizabeth Warren is so all over the place. I will always point out that she was one of the people who opposed the bank bailouts. And she was totally, I think, on the right side in that whole situation. But then she says these loopy things that make me think, oh my God, her poor law students, like, how does she not understand these sort of basic legal structures?
Right.
You have this thing.
I mean, look, as bad as law school very often is, because you know, as far as getting an actual, you get a law degree, but I mean, as far as actually practicing law,
teaching you what you're supposed to know.
Yeah, right. Good.
Right.
Yeah. Try and go practice law, getting straight out of law school. Good luck.
Good luck with that. Elizabeth, it's just like she has the best of intentions, and she senses the problem. There's a huge river of cash flowing through Washington.
Right.
But this fix is absolutely the worst thing that you can imagine. It's not going to do anything. It is such a Band-Aid.
Here's the thing. It says here, given the narrow definition of a registered lobbyist, however, the ban she proposes would be relatively easy to circumvent. Well,
of course it would be.
Of course it would be. I mean, you don't even have to be a really smart lobbyist to get around this.
Look, you have to know, no matter what structure was put into place in place of the structure that's in there now, that all the money still has to get out.
Right.
Okay? She hasn't affected any of that. So all those people still have to make a deal with somebody. If it's not the lobbyist that was just in there, it's their replacements. Even if you limit them to 10 people or all Democrats or all Republicans or whatever it is, it's new. It's the same people. They haven't done anything. The only way, you're absolutely right, the only way that anything is going to change in that entire area is when they start reducing the amount of money that's actually going through Washington.
Well, that's one thing. I mean, the simple fact is, when you have $4 trillion going through Washington, there's, as you know, Woody Sutton said, you know, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. And the simple fact is that the payoff for these people, when you realize that you can get a couple of sentences in a pharmacy bill that it is billions of dollars for this pharmacy.
Billions of dollars.
I mean, the return on your investment is unbelievable.
Right.
You don't actually have to go into the market.
There are obviously some representatives and senators who control in the hundreds of billions of dollars.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the main money committees.
Right.
I mean, those guys, the chairman of the House Ways and Means or something, you got to be kidding me. These guys are unbelievable.
So, Elizabeth, if you want to do something about that, that's what you're going to have to do. Unfortunately, you cannot get there in any way by trying to eliminate. You know, whenever they use an analogy, a metaphor to describe what I'm going to lockbox on
right. That's why they put it in quotes.
Anytime you see that, it's like, oh shit, wait, no, because they don't have words for their policy. Well, and then the rest of it is eliminate fraud.
Well, here, it says here, in a not so subtle thing, President Donald Trump has failed to make his tax returns public. Warren's measure would require candidates for Congress or the White House to disclose their tax returns.
Sure.
And to prevent insider trading, she would prohibit the president, members of Congress, and senior federal agencies from trading any stock during their service. Well, I mean, you got to be kidding me. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but if you...
Why don't you just make it a volunteer position? You know, that's one thing you could do. At least, I mean, but even so, it doesn't matter, because with all the money that they control, it doesn't matter.
There's no way. Finally, Warren's bill would create a new federal agency.
Right.
She calls a, quote, independent sheriff. Now, a federal agency,
right,
independent of the federal government.
Right. I guess they're, you know, the NSA is not good enough. FBI, no.
No. We're an independent sheriff to police all these rules and, quote, shine floodlights on government actions through enforcement of public transparency. The one thing that the government hates is transparency. They, you know.
Oh my God, no! This thing would be like such a tool for attack. This is what we're going to see. What I predict we're going to see from now is these types of things. Every time we have a presidential election, we're going to have a special prosecutor to attack them. It's just going to be the counter move.
Well, what's interesting, she pointed out some egregious, some things that she wanted to eliminate. Interestingly enough, she skipped over the Obama administration and pointed to the Republican administrations that had done things like this, whatever law. So there's, somebody asked her about it, and she kind of, not me.
Well, she toes the party line as well.
Yeah, she does, totally. All right, let me just see here what else I've got on the list. We're coming along pretty well. Let's see, Orange did that one. That one I kind of like. Let me, as a little light note here, let me put the 7-year-old New York boy is back selling lemonade for raising money for a friend in need after the state health inspector put the squeeze on. Last month, the state
squeeze on it.
Yeah, the squeeze. I love it. Lemon. He raised more than $900 on Saturday for the family of a 12-year-old girl who's facing surgery. An inspector shuttered Brendan's stand in the Boston Spa on July 22nd because he didn't have a permit to sell 75-cent lemonade. State officials say vendors from a nearby county fair had complained. So anyway, Governor...
Our kids stealing our jobs.
That's right. Governor, and well, here's what it took. It's nice to have friends in high places. Governor Andrew Cuomo quickly intervened. The Democrat directed health officials to work with Brendan's family to ensure he could reopen. The health department apologized and said permits are required, but children usually get a pass.
It's a good thing the governor didn't have anything more important to do.
Right. That's right. Exactly right. So, okay. Also, on another little light
note... Is that on his resume? Saved Timmy's Lemonade Stand.
That's right, Timmy's Lemonade. It's the Timmy's Lemonade Stand bill. Okay. In Tehran, Iran unveiled its first domestic fighter jet on Tuesday, with President Hassan Rouhani insisting that Tehran's military strength is only designed to deter enemies and create a lasting peace. Images on state television showed Rouhani sitting in the cockpit of the new Kausar, 4th generation, which is kind of interesting, fighter at the National. But what's interesting to me about this is this is their one new plane, and apparently when they showed it off, it like taxied down the runway and then taxied back. And
they don't have anybody who can fly.
Well, the comments on it were hysterical. You slap a coat of paint on it and put a new insignia on it. There you go. Okay, we're going to this one plane. You think about it. You have to understand, there's like 1,000 planes off the coast on our carriers that from the carrier deck could launch a missile to take this thing out. And you just gotta wonder. I mean, this is this is news. I mean, but I'm surprised that they even have the money to put together the prototype. I mean, with all the sanctions and everything. But I guess it's they're going to defend themselves against Israel or something.
Yeah, sure. You have one. You have a couple.
Okay, so let me just see. Let me go on here. This is one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting. School year is starting.
Mm-hmm.
What's the number one most important thing that all of the school boards, all of the teachers, and all the principals and people are touting about?
Bring your pencil.
No. School safety.
Oh, right.
No books, no teachers, no new blackboards, none of that. School safety. This is all brandy new lockdown procedures. Teachers are putting together buckets of treats to help to keep students calm during lockdown drills. They're hanging up bright door curtains that can be quickly released to shield a classroom from killers' eyes. They're composing hand-lettered posters and pamphlets to lay out what to do if ever, heaven forbid, a school shooting were to happen. I mean, this, to me, is all of a sudden, don't get me wrong, the couple of school shootings they've had, I don't know how many, 6 in the last 10 years?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Okay, a dozen.
Okay.
I mean, there's I don't know, 100,000 schools in the United States or something like that. I mean, at least.
Yeah. Well, look, this is a result of the fact that the government runs the school system.
Right, exactly.
Because what happens is there's a liability factor.
Right.
It's a publicity. It's a political fallback versus if it's just John's school and there's a shooting there, only John and his people have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. But if there's a shooting at
Marjorie Stoneman High,
right, the county of Sussex or whatever, by God, there's going to be some people to pay, and they'll go as high up as the President of the United States. There we go. So that's why you get this mass hysteria. That's why you get these crazy policies like zero tolerance knife policies, and you can't touch my kid policies,
right.
And all these.
Well, and you get and now you have the scanners as you go into the thing. You have to sign in, sign out. But as Rahm Emanuel said one, you never let a crisis go to waste. So this is a thing that adds to the, I don't know, I guess like the prison aspect of school. I mean, you have, we've always had fire drills, but this, to have a shooting drill, to threaten. I mean, you gotta think about this: kindergartners, first, second graders. Okay, kids, there's a shooter in the hallway.
And nobody believes it. I remember when I was a kid, we had some kind of a drill for some kind of safety thing, and it was a joke. None of the kids were worried that there was going to be a bomb.
Oh, you got to be kidding me! When I was growing up, we hid under our desks for an A bomb attack in the 4th grade.
Yeah, you hid,
and we took it seriously.
Oh, see, we didn't. We
were
like, okay, under the desk. Oh, right here. Is this where you want us?
Well, think about it.
We'll survive the blast if we get here. This is good, huh?
I was in elementary school. You have to understand. I was in elementary school, like in the 40s.
Radiation can't come under the desk.
Right? No. Through the wall, whatever it is. Right. I mean, of course, what's so funny is when you see the original films of the bomb that blew up, 5 miles away, and the houses are just leveled. I mean, it's just
whoosh. Even the backdraft is enough to wipe out anything that's left.
And we're going to go under our desks.
Right. Good for that.
And I remember, for instance, to give you an example of how serious it was back then. There was a thing we had called Conelrad, and you could go out and buy for $5 this little thing, and it was on a special frequency, and it had a red light on it.
Oh, God.
And they could hit a button in Washington D.C. and suddenly these things would go off because there was an A bomb. My God, it was just
yeah. Well, now we have
so my point is that now the same thing, and you got to. I've talked about this before. The chances, I would guess, you have more of a chance of being in a plane crash than you are of being a shooter. Recipient.
Way more.
I mean, that's how
way more driving to the school.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, it's got to be 1,000 to 1 ratio of danger driving your kid to the school every day.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, to me, and it's not like it's interesting because when you think about it, school buses and all the school crossings and everything have everything in the world you can imagine. I mean, the buses you can't pass them. They have all the flashing lights.
Yeah, what I think is so stupid is they have the lights after, or they have the lights before the last bell rings. In other words, they ask people to slow down before the kids get out of school.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. And after.
Well, yeah, I can understand after because the kids are out.
Right.
But before, they expecting a bunch of truants to leave early or something? A whole bunch of kids going to just run out of the class 10 minutes beforehand?
Yeah, no, and I don't know how far it is, but it's at least 15 minutes before the school left.
Oh yeah, at least
15. So anyway, I thought it was interesting how do you create a inviting learning environment while keeping classrooms secure and students prepared for the worst? I mean, every day
prepared for the worst.
It's just it's interesting that this is the top thing.
We have a drill every day. We'd like every student to say what they would do if today was their last day.
It's no coincidence that School Safety Solution, the company, was founded the year after Sandy Hook. Then as now, school security was at the forefront of educational conversation. And of course, what you find is that these guys, in order to sell their products, which are the little, they have now the special bomb-proof or shooter-proof rooms that you can have in the corner of your classroom and stuff like that.
Bulletproof backpacks.
Yeah, right, whatever, right, yeah. Oh, and clear, but clear. Gotta have them clear. What do you mean bulletproof?
Yeah.
They're clear. I don't know if they're made...
I've seen them with a backboard in them that's bulletproof.
Okay.
So you could have it clear and bulletproof. Yeah.
Of course, I imagine that some of the students are a little upset about that. I mean, here's a girl...
If you're a 14-year-old girl and you're carrying around your...
Tampax.
Right, yeah,
and
no
everything.
problem. Hey, look, Susie's got her stuff.
God almighty. Okay, well, so that
You want
is...
to make high school any more
this is...
bully friendly?
Next thing I have is President Trump said he disagreed with the Federal Reserve's decision to raise interest rates, and he said
I bet.
Yeah, well, this is what's interesting is that this unfortunately shows his economic dysfunction. I mean, the simple fact is...
Or he knows. Either way, I think somebody just told him, hey, if the Fed raises interest rates, it's going to tank your economy.
Right. Okay, that could be. Could be. And of course, the problem, of course, with the tanking of the economy and everything is when Volcker did it in 1980, he did it like right at the election of Reagan, and by the time the midterms rolled around, it has pretty much come out.
Yeah.
And by 1984, it was booming. I mean, he took like 49 states or something.
Yeah. Well, Reagan did the Morning in America speech, and right at his election, and that was it. And you're right. They reversed everything. Trump obviously didn't do that. Continued right on with Obama's policies. And of course, Obama, all he did was realize that, geez, if George W. Bush can give away $800 billion, I'm going to do that every year.
Right.
And so he did that every year the whole time. And Trump's just like, of course I'm doing that.
Yep.
So we're still in la la land in terms of economically. So we'll see what comes out. But yeah, I think he knows if the Federal Reserve were to take the reins off, there would be some pain.
Well, the Federal Reserve can pretty much, they're supposedly independent, right?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and they should be able, they should go after Volcker, but this guy, Jerome Powell, he's incrementing like Janet did at the end. The president said he would criticize the Fed if it continues to raise rates. Well, so what? The Fed is supposedly independent.
Yeah.
The president also said, and this is kind of interesting.
It's treason.
Yeah, right, treason. China is manipulating its currency and the Europeans are manipulating the euro. And he told the news outlet that he wasn't concerned about the potential for big economic damage to Europe after the U.S. imposed tariffs on Turkey, saying there will be no concessions with Turkey.
No concession, no soup for you.
Yeah, no soup for you. Well, what's interesting is that brings up another thing that I've looked at here, and that is, let me just see here if I've got it. This is...
we haven't seen the end of the trade situation.
No, we haven't. But I was going to say that here it is. The Turkey is farthest from the Atlantic of any NATO 29 states. What's interesting, I didn't realize this, but it's there. This little op-ed piece says we ought to kick Turkey out of NATO. I mean, they're not doing us any favors. They're taking their new stuff from Russia. They're on the Russian border. They're getting their arms now from Russia. Their anti-airplane stuff, and and he's a tyrant and a dictator and all that kind of stuff. But it says those 2,000 miles of border out there also fast become to symbolize a looming chasm between the crucial 69-year-old alliance and its leasing partner, the United States. What's interesting, of course, is that Turkey wanted into NATO during the Cold War because it was worried about Russia. Now, not so much. So,
Well, look, what's the bargain? Everybody puts in 2%, and we all protect one another.
Well, the thing about it is that where this dust-up occurs is over some missionary that's in jail.
Right.
I mean, what are you talking about? Entire countries. It reminds me a little bit of of the shooting of the Archduke, and suddenly the World War I. I mean,
Right.
what are you talking about? I mean, it's a nothing burger.
He wasn't that important a guy.
Yeah, he was the pretender to the throne. He wasn't actually the king or whatever. I don't think he was, but done much more as a mistake than the trumped-up arrest of a Christian missionary. Well, but I mean, that's what started all this stuff, and and Trump is saying, "I'm not going to give in," and Erdogan is saying, "Not me." We're going to keep him in jail. Blah blah.
I think that the conflict is a little bit more to do with what's going on in Syria and the Kurds and such. But I don't see. I mean, as we've talked about in the past, we don't see any reason why the United States really needs NATO at this point.
No, the fact is, it says here, originally there were 12 nations, and it was simply to stop, because Russia, or the Soviet Union,
They did Warsaw.
They had,
They did the Warsaw Pact.
Right, well, whatever it was. But remember, they were in Latvia and Ethiopia.
Yeah.
They were in all those countries, Czechoslovakia and Hungary and everything. And NATO was 12 nations, the ones right on the border there that were supposedly to stop the further advance.
Right.
Okay, well, that all went away in 1990. I mean, sorry, it just went away.
Yeah, they don't have the financial resources to do conquering at this point.
No.
As we've talked about before, Russia's economy is equivalent to Spain's economy. So if there's really not a big problem there in terms of holding them in check anymore. We really don't need NATO. So you could let Turkey go. But then again, it's a question of, I mean, like you said, he's a dictator over there. What are we doing? Why? The thing to do with the country like that is just to trade with them,
right?
And
right,
just sort of normalize relations.
I would, I'd certainly be tempted to close down the base.
I mean, I don't know what.
In this day and age, when you understand that in this day and age, we've got, the bombers that can literally fly from the United States to any place in the world.
Yeah, I mean, timing is critical, obviously, though. They're
not going to attack anybody.
No, I know, but if it has strategic value to leave the base there and leave our nukes there, then I would keep it, because why not? I mean, it's not costing us anything, or in terms of politically or men or anything like that. Then what's the big deal?
I disagree. I think it's just another drain. I mean, we got bases.
Look, generally, I'm in favor of closing down bases and bringing people home as much as possible.
Right.
Operation Bobby, bring our boys home yesterday.
Yeah.
Back yesterday, and so. But I would definitely maintain strategic outposts, just in case.
I suppose. I just, it's one of those things, you don't find Belgium or anybody else maintaining strategic
outposts. Well, no, that's because we're doing it.
Yeah, well, maybe they can go ahead and take care of their own then.
But if we let them and they drop the ball, then all of a sudden there's...
Tough shit.
Well, we have an interest in... Look, we're in control at this point. We're in power worldwide.
The clock is ticking.
And maybe so. But... no reason to abdicate that or allow anybody to get the upper hand on us if China's doing expansions or whatever.
Yeah, South China Sea.
That's it. The question is, do we want to continue to allow that? I mean, I personally, I'm with you on. I'm not big on military blockades and stuff like that.
Those are acts of war. I mean,
agree.
Sanctions and
sanctions. I distinguish between blockades and sanctions. Sanctions you could do. Like on the computer, we're not accepting your bank's stuff anymore, or something like that.
Oh, they're doing some of that, but again, we can forget that.
Well,
okay. Let me just go on here to another thing real quick. These a couple little light notes. I noticed that the big news of the week was the fact that the animal crackers box had changed from, it used to be, for 100 years, it's been Barnum and Bailey's, because of the circus, and the lions and tigers and everything were in cages. And of course the box was made to look like a railroad car, and animal crackers, and inside they had bears and lions and whatever, and they showed the animals in cages on the box. Mm-hmm. You could actually, as I recall,
what's a railroad?
Yeah, what's a railroad? No. And so this is the way they got around railroad cars, and I think you could convert the box, as I recall. You could fold the feet.
Yeah.
And make it like a little. Yeah, make it like a little. But anyway, so PETA he'd been complaining, bitch. You cannot put the animals in cages anymore. This is, cruel. And of course, the circus has basically closed down and let all the animals go. And what's interesting is, of course, now it's a kumbaya box with the lions and tigers and sheep and everybody else roaming free on the African veldt. And you sit there
before
wait till you see the lion go after the elk and wolf them down or something. So I just thought that was
Well, it's interesting that they have enough time and effort and money to go after animal crackers.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't there still a fairly big trade in animals?
Well, not only that.
Animals.
The other
what
thing
about
is
the huge dog markets in Korea and stuff, and the
well, there's also the big thing is the drug companies that experiment on
right.
I mean,
all the lab animals that get experimented on.
My roommate in college, who was a pharmacy major, said he was responsible for the deaths of probably 100 rabbits. Because he was examining their eyes, and so it'd kill them.
Right, so. And so it just seems to me like PETA should be involved more in stuff like that in terms of taking some kind of action rather than, I mean, these are imaginary animals.
Right.
They're not actually in the cages.
No. Well,
no animals were harmed
but
in the making of this box or in the eating of the animals.
But if you open up the box, they're in the cage in the box. That's the thing.
Let me out. It's just like, I mean, it's one thing to have a cause, but then
let me tell you, the causes, you never get to disband them. I can tell you this much. The March of Dimes was originally for polio, and it was dimes. That was what, and then Salk vaccine came. Well, nowadays, of course, you get $100 requests from the March of Dimes for whatever they're doing these days. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and they only give 10% of their money to charity, too.
I don't know about,
I remember that specifically.
Yeah.
As one of the ones that doesn't do much.
One of the ones that doesn't. Okay, let's see. The next thing I've got on here, which is kind of interesting. This is another good deed gone bad. As cities like Santa Monica and Beverly Hills struggle to control a rapid proliferation of the electric pay-per-minute scooters, some residents are taking matters into their own hands and waging a guerrilla war against the devices. These vandals are destroying or desecrating the vehicles in disturbingly imaginative ways and celebrating their illegal deeds on social media in full view of authorities and the public. Apparently, these I think these scooters are, I don't know if they're electric. I think they're electric.
Yeah.
And they have a top speed of 10 or 15 miles an hour. And of course, the company that makes these scooters has touted them as a traffic, free up the traffic reduction thing. Well, apparently, people are not taking too kindly to these people right on the sidewalk and all that kind of stuff. And so they are destroying these things literally in these towns. These are liberal towns that are all eco-friendly, but not for these scooters. The bicycles are fine, skateboards are fine, rollerblades, okay, but not these scooters.
Yeah, Bird is one of the companies.
Bird, yeah.
And one of my friends was just in an accident. She said Bird person cut her off or something. I was out in LA the last few summers up until 2016, but they had not proliferated at that point.
Well, apparently
they were just getting started right when I left, and I didn't see many of them. Now I can tell you this. Santa Monica is kind of a nice area, but right next to Santa Monica is Venice Beach.
Ooh.
And
now that's gone kind of downhill, hasn't it?
Well, it's always been downhill.
Okay.
The whole point about Venice Beach was it was an artsy community, and the whole reason it was an artsy community was because before that it was the industrial area, and you could get cheap warehousing. So a bunch of artists moved into it back when the canals were still there. Well, that was before the gentrification. A bunch of starving artists move in there, and so it was a starving artists community, and there's murals all over the place and stuff like that.
Hippies.
Right, and it smells like hippies and patchouli oils and urine and stuff like that all over Venice Beach. And it doesn't surprise me a bit that vandals are destroying these things in that area, because there's no respect for any real. I mean, you can't leave anything around. It's not like Tokyo or anything.
Yeah.
If you were to leave your bike anywhere for a few minutes, I'm sure it would get stolen.
Yeah.
There's just a huge number of vagabonds in the area. People just sleeping on the streets and wherever. So, free transportation is like a dream right there. Now, San Francisco, I don't know anything about. I mean, yes, actually, what you hear about San Francisco is the same thing now. It's overrun by people,
Yeah.
druggies, and
Homeless and everything.
Right.
Yeah, no,
So-
that's right. Well, this is Santa Monica and Beverly Hills, which of course struggle to control. Okay, let's see. I've got another thing here. Let me see what I've got. Here's another thing that Microsoft said Monday that it identified yet another attempt to hack political organizations, and the attack came from what it suspects is a group of professional hackers working for the Russian government. Well, it spotted and neutralized some websites, but I thought it was kind of interesting. Many of those activities appear to continue today, and Facebook announced earlier this month that it had identified and taken down 32 accounts. Now,
32.
32. Now you have to understand there are billions
Right.
of accounts, and to think that they make an effect on the election. And I noticed here our local Bill Nelson, who's running again for senator. He's trying to get a new thing. He's running against our governor Rick Scott to be the senator from Florida. And he has said, okay, well, we're being hacked by the Russians. I'm being hacked by the Russians. Vote for me. All the stuff you hear that's negative about me. Russia, 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 Russia. I mean, it's just, I mean, what's amazing to me is, like I say, 32 website pages and you're applauding them.
Killed him.
That's
32.
right. Boy, I'll tell you. Woo!
Took
Not
them
gonna-
all down.
That's right. We're not going to get those guys. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So that's Microsoft, and we're just about done here. I was going to talk about, let's see, economic illiteracy this week. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, she went by to say goodbye to a restaurant where she used to work. She wanted to pal it up with her buds, and she said, and the owner said, well, the reason we have to we're closing up. We're bankrupt. We're going, we're going to go. The very job-killing, New York soon-to-be $15 minimum wage. The very job-killing policy that Ocasio-Cortez and her fellow Democrats want to impose nationwide. The restaurant I used to work at is closing its doors, Ocasio-Cortez tweeted on Monday. I swung by today to say hi one last time and kid around with friends like old times. She was referring to the popular coffee shop in Union Square, which was frequented by A-list celebrities and featured on Sex and the City. Despite its popularity, the coffee shop is going out of business. Why? Well, it's because of the $15 minimum wage. As a result, Milites, or whatever it is, 150 workers will soon their actual wages drop to zero. So there's your $15.
Do you know what country has the highest minimum wage?
Switzerland?
Close. Well, Denmark.
Okay.
Do you know what country also has no minimum wage law?
No.
Denmark. They have the highest average minimum wage,
Oh, I see.
but no minimum wage law.
Okay.
So there's your socialist paradise.
Yeah.
No minimum wage law, highest
What
minimum
is
wage,
stunning? What is
highest
stunning?
actual.
What is stunning, of course, is that the people that just don't trust the free market, and they have to come in and meddle with guns or with the force.
Right.
I mean, the simple fact is that when you pass these new laws, and the sheriff, it's called a sheriff, she calls it. I mean, what do you don't need another sheriff. You've got, I don't know how many agencies there are that are all sheriffy type agencies.
Yeah.
And they all have.
The only good news about that whole Elizabeth Warren, both of her proposals, is they have no chance of passing.
Yeah, right.
I mean, these are like, this is just, it's like advertising. It's
Yeah.
like, this is like corporate advertising for the Democratic Party. Like, these are our ideals, this is what we wish we could do. It's like an Obama budget. It's nothing.
Well, the Ocasio, whatever her name is, I mean, no shame. She goes into her old coffee shop where she used to work, And they're
She doesn't
closing
think-
down.
She doesn't think that's the cause. And look, there are other causes, I'm sure. You figure that just the taxes alone on small businesses in New York are.
Well, that may be, but you think about it for a second. It's been there forever. Without the minimum wage going to $15. I mean, the A-list people show up there all the time, and it's Sex and the City filmed there. I mean, this was a go-to place. So,
Well,
and what changed? What exactly changed?
And as we know, I mean, you make a marginal change in your economics that can make all the difference.
Right. It's the Black Swan event.
Certainly possible that put them over the top.
Yeah.
And
of course, it turns out that the way New York is, arbitrarily, they've said if you have fewer than 11 employees, you're not subject to this. And apparently, this place has like 150 employees that are going to be.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Anyway, that's pretty much what I've got.
That's all I got too. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody. It looks like we had a pretty decent stream. We only lost 16%. I may check that and upload a better copy here right away for your listening and viewing pleasure. So
I'm wondering what's going to happen. You know, some of my classmates went to Harvard.
mm-hmm.
Harvard's last sorority closes its doors to become open to men.
What?
It's going to be by.
All the sororities?
Yeah, this is the last one that was only girls. Sorority. And now it's
Really?
going to become men and women.
Wow. Okay.
You wonder
Sure.
what the showering is going to look like. And
Well, it seems like, I mean, those institutions have been around for 100 years.
oh, are you kidding? How about 300? Harvard was founded in 16.
Well, no, I was talking about the fraternities and the sororities.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying that they started off, right away. I mean, I would bet some of those fraternities are 200 years old.
Wow. Well, hey, knock yourself out.
Yeah. Well, I might put a little blurb on later about that. That was pretty much what I had.
Okay.
Thank
Right.
you all.
Thanks for tuning in. Check us out Wednesdays and Sundays at 4 p.m. here on YouTube on the Jimmy Doan channel, and we'll be back on Sunday at 4.
There should be some news between now and then. What's interesting is we have 3 days between Sunday and Wednesday, but we have 4 days between Wednesday and Sunday, so there should be a big pileup on news.
Yeah, that extra day.
Extra day.
All right, we'll see you soon.
You know what I didn't get to was also the business about Backpage. It's okay.